Guys who spotted a stranded koala on the water know exactly what they have to do. Animals' curiosity tends to get them into sticky situations every so often. Some of the time they're able to get themselves out on their own, but others they require a little assistance from an outsider. Recently, two members of the Australian Coast Guard were returning from rescuing a broken vessel not far off the coast of Victoria, when one spotted an unusual creature clinging to a wooden post in the middle of the bay. When the crew steered closer to investigate, they realized they had to make not one, but two daring rescues. When animals get themselves into a tight spot, we always hope that they're able to escape their predicament on their own. Unfortunately, sometimes they put themselves in situations that require a little outside help. Members of the Australian Coast Guard experienced this recently when one of them spotted something strange on the way back to base. They were ready to perform yet another rescue, only it wasn't a boat this time. One morning not far off the coast of Victoria, Australia, the two members of the Australian Coast Guard were heading back to their base after they rescued a broken-down vessel. Thankfully, the rescue effort went smoothly and everyone was determined to be safe. As they drove back across the bay, one member of the crew, Sean Hannum, spotted something strange in the distance. It looked like some sort of creature was clinging onto a wooden pole way offshore. Hannum and the second crew member, Gary Sissons, decided to take a short detour and check it out. Once they got close enough, they immediately realized what it was: a koala. The poor thing was soaking wet and panting, and he was clinging on to a slippery rope attached to the wooden mooring pole. The animal needed immediate help, and Sean and Gary were the only ones around to attempt a rescue. Would they be able to pull it off? The men slowly drifted their boat towards the stranded koala. They knew koalas were generally harmless, but this guy was clearly traumatized, so they had to be especially careful handling him in case he acted out in an aggressive way. Luckily, the waterlogged koala was way too tired to be aggressive. The men used a rescue board to coax him into the boat and wrapped him up in a large orange towel for warmth. Sean and Gary then drove him to Koala Island, a small uninhabited island nearby. They hoped he wasn't too traumatized to be able to acclimate back into the bushland. The men weren't quite sure how the small creature managed to make his way nearly 1,000 feet off the island shore and onto the wooden mooring pole. Although koalas can swim, they aren't known for spending much time in the water. This guy found himself in quite a scary predicament, alright, but was he going to be okay? After being placed on the ground, the koala sat nearly motionless for several minutes, staring off into the bush. The men had no idea how long he'd been out in the bay, but they prayed it wasn't so long that the poor animal was too emotionally shaken up to resume his day-to-day routine. Suddenly, the koala turned his head and looked at his rescuers. It was almost as if he was acknowledging the hard work the men put in to bring him to safety. The koala then turned forward again and simply walked off. Sean and Gary couldn't believe they spotted the little guy on their way back to base. The Australian Coast Guard deals with rescues all the time, and they're always more than happy to help out anyone who needs it, humans and animals included. That koala was so lucky the crew members just happened to be driving through the bay. Hopefully, he can shake off the traumatic experience and return to life as normal. Share this koala rescue story with your friends below.